welcome to Mjtv Global News, informative news with a global perspective. My name is Natasha Johnson.
And I'm Steve Moore. And in this week's news, a shooting between a sailor and a civilian contractor left both men dead aboard a Navy destroyer docked at the Navy base in Norfolk, Virginia. The Navy said in a statement that the suspected gunman, a civilian, killed a sailor aboard the Mahan, a guided missile destroyer, before naval security killed him. A spokesman in the communications office in Norfolk, Petty Officer Second Class Molly Greendeer, said the suspect was a civilian contractor and there were no other injuries. The suspect shot and killed the sailor before security forces responded. A Navy news release Tuesday said the civilian, who had access to be on the base, approached the USS Mahan late Monday and was confronted by ship security. The Navy said a struggle occurred and the civilian disarmed the petty officer and used the weapon to fatally shoot a sailor. The news release added that the Navy security forces then killed the suspect. A 45-minute lockdown at the base followed the shooting, although the pier where the shooting occurred remains closed during the investigation. The rest of the base is operating as normal. The identities of the sailor and the civilian will be released after the families are notified. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Prosecutors in the Italian fashion capital of Milan are calling for overturning of the sentence which last year saw designers Dolce & Gabbana sentenced to 20 months in jail on tax charges. In June 2013, the Dolce & Gabbana design duo were found guilty of evading around 400 million euros on a 1 billion euro business deal. But Italian news agency AGI reports that on the first day of the appeal, the prosecution argued that Dolce & Gabbana were not guilty as charged of willfully failing to report company incomes. The appeal is set to continue. Designers Dolce & Gabbana have said they are being crucified like thieves and will be going out of business if they are forced to pay a 400 million euro fine for a tax evasion. If we deserve the sentence, there will be nothing to say, Gabbana said. But we do not deserve it, so unfortunately, we have to close. His fashion partner Dolce added, "We will close. What do you want us to do? We will close." The duo subsequently closed their Milan stores, bars, and restaurants for 3 days in protest. They say they now want to put the episode behind them and are happy to meet with the mayor of Milan, who accused them of overreacting. "We are not going to give in to being crucified like these because we are not," said Gabbana. "How can we accept being branded as tax evaders? We are good people. We live in Italy. We pay taxes in Italy. We do not pretend to live abroad." To you, Steve?
Well, I guess Dolce & Gabbana will be going on sale. Look for those clearance, ladies.
Yes.
Complaint by a fired correctional officer in New York's Rikers Island about a death of an inmate. For the new correctional officer, the trouble began about an hour and a half into his shift at Rikers Island, inside a solitary confinement unit for mentally ill inmates. A banging on the door to one of the cells brought the attention of the young officer Raymond Castro. Through a small window, he could see that the inmate inside was in distress. The 25-year-old prisoner told Mr. Castro he swallowed a soap ball, a packet of highly toxic detergent that he should not have had. He needed Mr. Castro to summon help, but hours earlier, the inmate at the New York City jail complex had received the soap ball from another inexperienced correction officer, who apparently was unaware of the mortal risk posed by this cleaning agent. There had been an overflow of raw sewage from inmate toilets, and the soap balls were to be diluted in water and distributed to inmates to clean up the mess. By the time Mr. Castro encountered the inmate around 4:30 in the afternoon on August 18, 2012, a caustic chemical mix was searing the flesh off of his tongue and throat and coursing through his digestive tract. The inmate, Jason Echeverria, was already sick. He had behavioral problems since he was a child and was found to have bipolar disorder. He had been charged with burglary and robbery in the Bronx and at Rikers Island had attempted suicide more than once. Because of his disruptiveness, according to court papers, he was taken out of regular jail population and placed in solitary confinement at the George R. Venerio Center, a Rikers unit that inmate advocates said was notorious for abuse and neglect before the Corrections Department closed it in December. On Monday, the man who was supervising Mr. Castro was arrested and charged with violating Mr. Echeverria's civil rights, the first such prosecution involving Rikers in at least a decade. But court documents and interviews portray Mr. Echeverria's final hours as a cascade of mistakes by inexperienced officers, compounded by the alleged indifference of a commander in a mental health unit long plagued by systematic problems. Some of the officers responsible for the most difficult and volatile inmates at Rikers were, like Mr. Castro, barely out of the academy, with little training in working with people with severe mental illness. Beyond the officers' lack of experience, basic safeguards were not in place. Mr. Castro, for example, initially could not find the phone number to summon medics. When he did, the commander, Captain Terrence Pendergrass, would not allow him to use the phone. According to a wrongful termination complaint filed by Mr. Castro, the immediate cause of the incident was sheer human callousness, said Joshua Kellner, a lawyer for Jason's father, Raymond Echeverria, who was suing the city. They let someone slowly die in their cell. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Pope Francis warns mobsters that they will go to hell if they do not repent and renounce their bloodstained money and bloodstained power, delivering his most forceful denunciation of organized crime yet. The occasion was a prayer vigil at a Roman Catholic church for relatives of innocents killed by the mafia, during which the names of 842 victims were read aloud. After voicing his solidarity with the family, he said he could not leave the service without speaking to those not present, the protagonists of mafia violence. The power, the money that you have now coming from so many dirty businesses, so many mafioso crimes, it's blood-stained money. Blood-stained power. You cannot bring it with you to the next life. Repent. There's still time to not end up in hell, which is what awaits you if you continue on this path, he said. The brutality of Italy's mobsters was driven home this week following the death of a 2-year-old killed along with his mother and her companion in a mob hit and run in southern Toronto in which assailants opened fire on their car. The 2-year-old's older brother sitting in the back seat escaped unharmed. This was the Pope's first major address to Italian victims of organized crime who were gathering near Rome for an annual retreat arranged by a mafia-fighting priest, which is held every March 21st, the first day of spring. He has spoken out frequently about the evils of corruption and wrote a short booklet on corruption and sin in 2005 when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. Now we're heading to commercial. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for that special treasure? Stop by Airport Antiques Gallery, an upscale, one-stop shopping experience. We feature some of the finest antique furniture, art, and collectible treasures from around the world. Airport Antiques and Eclectic Treasures provides professional auction and estate services for your personal valuables. We turn your treasures into... Located at 3440 Lang Avenue, Hapeville, Georgia. We are waiting for your call, 404-530-3930. That's 404-530-3930. Airport Antiques and Eclectic Treasures.
Welcome back to Mjtv Global News. An Oklahoma judge declared the state's execution law unconstitutional Wednesday, ruling that it violates due process rights by denying inmates access to court system. The ruling stems from a challenge by two death row inmates of a state law forbidding anyone to disclose the source of drugs used in executions, even if an inmate seeks the information as part of a legal case. Oklahoma County District Judge Patricia Parrish said Monday that provision violates due process rights guaranteed in the Constitution. Inmates Clayton Lockett and Charles Warner sued the state last month in an effort to find out if the drugs to be used in their executions next month will be pure and would not cause them to suffer. Lockett, who was convicted of killing a 19-year-old woman in 1999, is set to be executed April 22nd. Warner is scheduled to die April 29th for the killing of his girlfriend's 11-month-old daughter 17 years ago. A separate court will hear pleas from the inmates for a stay of their execution. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Deliveries of tobacco to retailers in Australia rose slightly last year for the first time in the last 5 years, even after the introduction of plain packaging aimed at deterring smokers, according to the industry's sales figures to be released on Monday. Australia, which in December of 2012 became the first country to ban branded cigarette packs, is being closely watched for signs of success as other nations, including Ireland, New Zealand, and United Kingdom, explore similar measures. In 2013, the first full year of plain packaging, tobacco companies sold the equivalent of 21 billion cigarettes in Australia, according to the industry data provided by Marlboro maker Philip Morris International. That marks a 3% increase from 2012 and reverses 4 straight years of decline. The exact reason for the upturn was unclear. Some tobacco companies argued that higher shipments of loose tobacco and a decline in cigarettes suggest smokers may be trading down to cheaper products and can therefore afford to buy more of them. Australia's law requires standardized packaging on all tobacco products, forcing companies to replace their logo and branding with graphic images of smoke-related diseases on a drab background. The law is aimed at reducing the number of children who may be drawn to smoking by attractive, brightly colored packages. There has been an evidence suggesting that the plain packaging is having some effect on smokers, including a study published by the British Medical Journal in July. The study, commissioned by the Cancer Society of Victoria, found that among 500 Australian smokers, most believed their cigarettes were less satisfying, of lower quality than a year ago, with most thinking also about quitting. Tobacco firms argue that plain packaging laws violate their trademark rights and may restrict free trade. Australia is facing challenges at the World Trade Organization for complaints the laws created illegal obstacles to commerce. They also say that the standardized packaging has led to a jump in sales of illicit tobacco, partly since the packs are easily to counterfeit. Accounting firm estimates that illicit tobacco jumped from 11.8% of the Australian tobacco market to a 13.3%. Steve?
Tobacco. Well, a couple in Florida lived on a yacht, collected welfare. The couple who collected food stamps and other public assistance from Minnesota while living on a yacht in Florida were being sought on fraud charges, prosecutors said on Friday. Colin Chisholm III and his wife, Andrea Chisholm, accepted more than $165,000 in public assistance between 2005 and 2012 before benefits were terminated, according to prosecutor Mike Freeman in Hennepin County, Minnesota. Charges against Colin Chisholm were filed in February, but they were kept sealed while police searched for the couple. Chuck Lazewski, a spokesman for Freeman, said on Friday, "They know by now that we're looking for them." The Chisholms are each charged with a felony count of wrongfully obtaining public assistance in excess of $35,000, the highest threshold under Minnesota law. Andrea Chisholm is charged on Thursday. They bought a $1.2 million yacht, the Andrea Aris, in 2005. And shortly after applying for welfare benefits in Minnesota, according to complaints against both of them, they have been accused of living on the yacht in the area of Palm Beach, Florida for 28 months while lying about living in Minnesota. Colin Chisholm was the chief executive officer of a satellite television and broadband service company, while his wife bred and sold championship dogs. And over a 7-year period, the couple deposited more than $2.6 million in bank accounts. They did not report on applications for welfare benefits, according to the complaint. They have lived in luxury homes in suburban Minneapolis. They drive a $30,000 Lexus and also collected welfare benefits in Florida. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. We are going to commercial. We'll be right back.
Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Won't you tell me where my love can be? Is there a meadow in the mist where someone's waiting?
Welcome back to MJTV Network Global News. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Adolfo Suarez, Spain's former prime minister who led the nation to democracy following the death of dictator General Francisco Franco, died on Sunday at the age of 81. The respected statesman had suffered from Alzheimer's disease for the last decade and passed away 6 days after being admitted into a Madrid hospital with a respiratory infection. He successfully steered Spain through a delicate transition period, overcoming deep rifts with society left over from the 1936 to the 1939 Civil War with an amnesty for political offenses. Widely admired for his talent for reconciliation, Mr. Suarez oversaw the legalization of political parties and trade unions and guided them towards a consensus that resulted in Spain's constitution being approved by referendum in 1978. He retired from political office in 1991, and his family revealed in 2005 that he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. In a subsequent interview, his son admitted that the illness had progressed to a degree that his father no longer knew that he had once been prime minister. Prime Minister Mario Rajoy declared 3 days of national mourning. The body of Mr. Suarez will lie in state in the nation's parliament ahead of a state funeral. To you, Steve.
And now we're going to go to the weather. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, we are experiencing clear but chilly 52 degrees. Well, precipitation, we're at zero right now. The humidity is 27% and the wind is at 12 miles an hour. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they're at 54, partly cloudy. Their precipitation is zero. Their humidity is 53 and their wind is at 23 miles per hour. Philadelphia, clear and chilly, 41 degrees. 10% precipitation, humidity's at 32, and their wind was at 25 miles an hour. Madison, Wisconsin, partly cloudy, 39 degrees, precipitation at 10. The humidity is 44%. Their wind was coming in at 17 miles per hour. Now for international, we have Nairobi, Kenya. They had thunderstorms, 81 degrees, precipitation at 80. Humidity is 64%, and their winds were at a very low 6 miles per hour. In Tokyo, they had rainstorms, cloudy, 61 degrees, precipitation at 50. Their humidity is at 70%. Their winds coming in at now 9 miles per hour. In Moscow, Russia, partly cloudy, 48 degrees. Their precipitation is at zero. The humidity is at 45%, and their wind is coming in at 17 miles an hour. In Ireland, cloudy and raining, 52 degrees, precipitation at 60. Their humidity is at 85% with the winds coming in at 14 miles per hour. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Spanish police have arrested 5 people accused of offering destitute immigrants cash to become liver and kidney donors in the first such organ trafficking racket to be uncovered in Spain. The group approached illegal immigrants and offered them 40,000 euros if they proved a match and agreed to donate sections of their liver to a wealthy Lebanese man who had traveled to Valencia in eastern Spain in search of a transplant. The man, aged 61, who has not been named but is said to hold political office in his native Lebanon, was arrested along with 4 other foreign nationals, police confirmed in a statement issued last Wednesday. The network was discovered after an NGO working with the immigrant community in Valencia alerted authorities that large sums of cash were being offered for the purchase of vital organs including kidneys and sections of liver. Health authorities discovered that a group of people who had been undergoing tests at a private clinic in Valencia to determine whether they proved compatible for the Lebanese man. Spain has earned a reputation as one of the leading countries for organ transplants in the world, with a rate of 35.1 donors per million people. Last year, more than 4,200 legal transplants were conducted successfully. To you, Steve.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey Atlanta, it's the Doctor of Crunktivity, and I got something hot for you. So you think you've got talent? That's right, you think you've got talent? Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity to prove it. Where? Hey, this March 28th and 29th from 6 p.m. until, that's right, this March 28th and 29th. Where? At 737 Veterans Parkway, Jonesboro, Georgia, at Club Space Condo. All you got to do is call 229-200-2288. That's 229-200-2288. Or hit them up like a tow truck at www.p3perfectpeace.com. That's www.p3perfectpeace.com. So you think you got talent? Come out and prove it this March 28th-29th from 6 p.m. until at 737 Veterans Parkway, Jonesboro, Georgia, Club Space Condo. See you there. Call on for vendor space. And hey, don't forget, this is sponsored by P3 Production along with That's Her Magazine and Money Team Magazine. So you think you can dance? You think you got talent? Hey, we're looking for you. Come out and prove it.
Say you're down, you want to cry. Let me give you good advice. Hold your head up and just tell the blues bye-bye. Hold your head up and say bye-bye to the blues. Say you lost your job, can't pay your rent because all your money's spent. Dry your eyes, yes, dry your weeping eyes.
Welcome back to Mjtv Global News. Now, for business and safety, there's been a major recall of a doll sold at Walmart. So you better not cuddle up with Miss Sweet Love, my sweet baby cuddle care baby doll from Walmart. First of all, she gets sick on cue. The battery-powered doll coughs and babbles, and her cheeks flush also. You make her better with a medical kit that includes a syringe, a stethoscope, and thermometer. After you give her a shot and a spoonful of medicine, she's as good as new. But it turns out that she can give you symptoms of your own. The circuit board that makes the doll seem to come alive can also overheat, creating a burn hazard. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says to recall it. 12 incidents, including 2 involving burns or blisters to the thumb, have been reported to Walmart, the commission said. Walmart is recalling the dolls, so if your family has one, pull out the batteries and take it to Walmart for a refund. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. I will not be getting that toy.
I don't blame you.
Yesterday here in Atlanta, Miley Cyrus stopped by on her Bangers tour. The city was shut down by the big concert by Miley Cyrus, and she performed many of her songs off of her new album and a few from her old albums. I have a couple of snippets. If you would like to check them out, visit our website at MJTV Global News on Facebook. To you, Steve.
Yes, and breaking news just coming in. We have 2 firefighters dead in a Boston brownstone fire. The information coming in is kind of sketchy. It's very limited. But if you go online to Yahoo News, you can find the story as it's coming in. 2 firefighters in Boston dead in the brownstone fire. We have sympathy for their families. And to also my last story, which is something that should make you smile, North Carolina police seek a man who sucks toes at Walmart. Police said a man in North Carolina sucked a woman's toes at a Walmart after he convinced her he was a podiatry student and persuaded her to take off her shoes. Detective Dennis Harris said the woman agreed to try on several pairs of shoes at the discount store in Lincolnton, and that at some point during the process, the man stuck her foot in his mouth. Harris said the man apparently tried the same thing at another Walmart 15 miles away, where he told the woman he was conducting a survey on the feet of different races and nationalities. The second woman also agreed to take off her shoes, but left when the suspect asked her to remove her socks. Both confrontations happened on Monday, and police are now looking for the man. Natasha? Guess he likes corn chips. Huh? Thank you for
joining us at MJTV Global News.
We will see you next week.
We will see you next week. Have a great night. Thank you.